Okay, let's try that again. Sorry that this video is coming up late. I want to share a little bit of background. I finished my degree in 2024, but the industry that I was trying to get into is a really difficult one to get into. So it's been impossible for me to find a job. I've also been applying to a million other places that are not even closely related, and I've just not heard back from any of them. So I'm a little worn out from that, and things might be a little bit slower from here on out. What I'm going to be talking about today is Ruby Ridge, its ties to Waco, the Oklahoma City bombing, government overreach, statistics to why white people are not oppressed, and what we can take from all of this. So what was Ruby Ridge? Details. Ruby Ridge was the location where the FBI engaged in an 11-day standoff with Randy Weaver and family and friends in an isolated cabin in Idaho, August 1992. This all started when Weaver attended several Aryan Nations meetings in the late 1980s. Weaver befriended an ATF informant who bought 2 illegal sawed-off shotguns off of him. When Weaver declined to become an informant, they pursued a weapons charge against him. Where the government failed point number 1, Randy Weaver was subsequently arrested and trial was set to February 20th. The probation officer incorrectly told Weaver that the trial was set for March 20th. When Weaver failed to appear for trial due to this, the court issued a bench warrant, indicted by a federal jury, and the U.S. Marshals were to arrest him. Marshals assumed Randy and his family would violently resist if confronted. Plans of a stealth operation were drawn up. Point number 2, August 21st, 1992, Weaver's dog alerted to a 6-person surveillance team inside their property. Marshals shot and killed the dog. 14-year-old Sammy Weaver then exchanged fire and was unfortunately shot and killed. Then Harris, Weaver's friend, opened fire and killed Marshal Deegan. Federal marshals requested assistance. Point number 3, August 22nd, 1922, Lon Horiuchi opened fire when he believed Weaver and Harris were going to shoot a helicopter. The first shot hit Randy in the arm. The second shot meant for Harris struck Vicki Weaver in the face while she held her infant daughter. Her body remained in the cabin for 11 days. Weaver and Harris surrendered about a week later. The Justice Department criticized the FBI for failing to gather intelligence and not ordering the residents to surrender before engaging fire. Point number 4, Horiuchi's second shot was considered unconstitutional as Harris and Weaver were running for cover and could not be considered an imminent threat. The U.S. Attorney General defined the charges as unwarranted. Attempts for other rulings were denied or failed. 1995, the federal government settled a lawsuit brought on by Randy Weaver and his 3 surviving daughters. The editors of Encyclopedia Britannica, 2019. Ties to Waco. Richard M. Rogers authorized the use of military tear gas in Waco. He also drafted rules of engagement, which allowed agents to shoot armed subjects on site, later deemed illegal. Due to his role at Ruby Ridge, he received a 10-day suspension, accepted non-tactical reassignment, and has since retired. Walsh and Levy, 1999. Ties to the Oklahoma City bombing. McVeigh viewed Ruby Ridge as clear evidence that the U.S. government aimed to disarm the public and take away people's Second Amendment rights. Pruitt, 2018. Waco served as the reinforcement for this belief, and April 19, 1995, 2 years after the Waco siege ended, McVeigh and others sharing anti-government views detonated explosives in a truck outside the Alfred P. Murrah Federal Building. The building held offices for the Social Security Administration, the DEA, Secret Service, the ATF, a Veterans Counseling Center, a military recruiting office, and a daycare center. 168 lives were lost, hundreds more were wounded. Before execution, McVeigh made it clear that he intended for the bombing to serve as retribution for the deaths in Ruby Ridge and Waco. Pruitt, 2018. Government overreach. Yes, the government made several mistakes in both events, Waco and Ruby Ridge. The issue that I see most visibly is that innocent people keep getting stuck in the middle. People should have the ability to live in seclusion should they wish. A government is important in many ways, but there are a lot of things they should not be allowed to dictate. However, this does not mean I condone the actions taken in purpose of terrorizing others into acceptance. I do not believe taking any innocent lives is okay from any side of history. When choosing the ways in which you act or react, I do not believe stooping to that level sets the example for those looking to be ungovernable. If anything, that cycle continues through those actions because you prove to them why you should not get to live the life you wish to live. 14-year-old boy that lost his life in Ruby Ridge for protecting his dog and family did not deserve that. Weaver and Harris could be entirely in the wrong with no redeeming qualities, and I still would never defend the actions taken. No, Weaver and Harris should not have provided weapons to whoever they chose, but our current limitations do not much stop people from getting their hands on guns either. Yet a flaw in communication resulted in the loss of innocent lives. Who knows if Weaver would have shown up even if he did receive the right court date. The point still stands, those with training should be held to a higher standard of restraint than civilians. Statistics. I do not intend to get specifically into Weaver's beliefs, as again, I do not find the justification behind certain things, such as racism, to make them actually okay. It is one thing to wish to be separated from the majority, to have your own land, grow your own food, whatever. It's another thing entirely to start a cult over it or choose ignorance and racism. I thought this time, instead of describing how cults start, that it would be more important to provide some information, namely statistics, surrounding why the belief that white people would ever be oppressed in America is just absurd. Why white people are not oppressed. Notable statistics, more available at Tucker 2015. By the way, my resources will be provided in the Patreon link in the description because I don't want YouTube to remove them. So take a look at my Patreon if you would like to learn more or access any of these resources. This resource separates the statistics into 11 categories: police, the war on drugs, prison, mass incarceration, criminal justice/courts, education, employment, wealth, workplace, voting, media, and housing. A lot of these do tie into each other to build an even more difficult ladder to climb. Police. Black people are less than 13% of the population, and they make up 39% of those killed by police even when not attacking. Lind, 2015. Police shoot and kill black people they are arresting far more often than they shoot and kill white people they are arresting. Tucker, 2015. The war on drugs. Black people aged 18 to 25 are less likely to have used marijuana in the last 12 months, but still arrest rates for marijuana for black people are significantly higher. Matthews, 2013. The addiction rate has not changed. Dye, 2012. Because we have not addressed the real root issue, mental illness. Also, legalization did not make teens more likely to use marijuana. Lopez, 2014. What the war on drugs has done is trap millions of people, especially black men, in poverty and push them towards a life of crime. Tucker, 2015. Prison. The United States has 5% of the world's population and 25% of the world's prisoners. Black boys are 5 times more likely to go to prison than white boys. Quigley, 2010. The prison controls the father, the church controls the mother, and the school controls the child. Criminal justice and courts. 20% of black defendants convicted of murdering white victims receive the death penalty, along with 8% of the white defendants who killed white victims, and 1% of black defendants who killed black victims. From Tucker, 2015. The original source has since been removed. As of April 2025, 40.25% of death row prisoners were black. Race and the death penalty by the numbers. Death Penalty Information Center, 2019. Too often defendants plead guilty when they are innocent without understanding their legal rights. Quigley, 2010. Education. More white students complete their degrees on average. U.S. Department of Education Integrated Post-Secondary Education Data System, 2024. The gap in that number is significantly less than it was in the other sources compared to 10-20 years ago. But keep in mind how long it took for black folks to even be allowed in the education systems at all when realizing the strides they've made. The education systems in poor neighborhoods and communities of color are significantly lower quality. More funding and more opportunities are provided to wealthier districts. American Psychological Association, 2017. Now, wealthy kids still deserve a good education. What I'm trying to get at by including this statistic is that every kid deserves the same access to education regardless of socioeconomic status. School to prison pipeline, FMJ 5118, 2025. Employment. A black college student has the same access to opportunities as a white high school dropout. Bessler, 2014. Wealth. Inherited wealth plays a huge role in most of the things listed. Black families were continually kept from building generational wealth at every turn in history. Decker, 2025. Workplace. The wealth gap is larger between races, intersectionality, than just between gender. The typical white household held 9.2 times more wealth than the average black household in 2021. Kokler and Maslamani, 2023. In 2023, full-time workers respectively earned 80 cents to the dollar, white women non-Hispanic, 66 cents black women, 94 cents Asian women, 58 to 65 cents Hispanic women, and 58 cents American Indian and Alaskan Native Indigenous women, compared to each dollar the average white man made. Kalik, 2024. Voting. Pennsylvania admitted that there had been zero fraud that the laws were purported to prevent. Ahead of voter ID trial, Pennsylvania admits there's no in-person voter fraud. League of Women Voters, 2012. Then the main effort is to disenfranchise black and other POC voters. As a lifelong conservative American, here is something I have never understood. Conservative Americans are A, fiercely patriotic and claim to be the defenders of freedom, liberty, democracy, etc., and B, also predominantly Christians, meaning that they ought to believe in grace and mercy for all of us sinners. So aside from partisan self-interest, I find it hard to understand how they find it okay to rob a person of their democratic right to vote for their entire lives on the basis of mistakes that are in their past, oftentimes mistakes that they made when they were kids? Shouldn't their Christian faith cause them to give people another chance, and their patriotism and passion for democracy and the Constitution bring them to the defense of any person robbed of the right to vote? Tucker, 2015. That is incredibly worded. So-called Christians of today that believe and accept things like systemic racism as okay, I just don't get how. Do you know any black people on a personal level at all? I just cannot wrap my head around it, because I thought y'all knew that Jesus said to love your neighbor. Media. Indigenous women receive 27 times less news print coverage when missing than white women. Corlett, 2022. Housing. The Fair Housing Act, enacted in 1968, was to prohibit the discrimination in sales and rentals of housing, yet more than 30 years later, race discrimination in housing continues to be a problem. The United States Department of Justice, 2023. A deliberately ignorant opinion is not, in fact, an opinion at all. It is a willfully held prejudice. Tucker, 2015. If nothing changes input, then nothing changes outcome. I cannot for the life of me find where that quote originated from. I think I first heard it in the Lorax, which is a bit absurd, but our lives are shaped by all that surrounds us, though a search said it may be from Alcoholics Anonymous or a Greek philosopher. Regardless, the quote is true. If we cannot learn from our mistakes to therefore adjust our outcomes, we will continue to live in an endless cycle of harming each other and never knowing true sovereignty. If you've ever felt like a crazy animal stuck in an elaborate cage and are seeking connection, drifting through meaning, you might like my other works. Consider taking a look at my Substack or my Patreon, for not just for the purposes of seeing these references and having more access to information, but also for the purposes of reading the other things that I've created. Anyways, thank you so much for watching, and I will see you guys in the next video. I don't know when it will be. My schedule might change. We'll have to see how things go, but I appreciate you being here, and I just thank you. Bye, guys.